We're going to create a colorful dual lighting effect that's pretty trendy to do. So we're going to have something where there's blue coming from this side and red coming from that side. We're going to be using a gradient map, which is going to recolorize this. And then we're just going to reverse the mask. So let me show you how to do this. So let's start with the tutorial. So right now we have this picture of this gentleman. We're going to do a selection on this. So we're going to use their AI select subject. This does a pretty good job because there's a solid background. So now that I have that set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group. By doing this, anything that's inside of this group will end up having this mask applied. So right now I'm going to put a mask on it. Now I'm going to select the background layer. I need to make sure that my gradient is going to go from black to white. So I need to flip-flop this. I can click here. If your colors are something way different, just because we may have used a different, you may have done a different tutorial. If you press the keyboard shortcut D for default, it will switch that back. Now what you can do is once that has been set, I'm just going to ignore these pieces and just kind of go through and do it my own way. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add myself a black and white gradient, or sorry, a black and white filter. So right here where the adjustment layer is, go ahead and click and kind of choose black and white. What this is going to do is it applies a black and white effect across his face and the background. That didn't really change because it was already black, but we'll switch here. Now I'm going to choose the gradient map. This is a little bit further down, so I have to bring this down here in this gradient map. Now what this gradient map does is by default, it brings up whatever colors you had here. So that's why it was important for me to switch to black and white. With this gradient map selected, I actually want to change this so that this side is blue. So to do that, this is the ramp. It's a gradient ramp. If you double click on it, it will bring this open. And then here is the ramp. And then if I double click on this square right here, come on, why are you fighting me? Oh, let me choose color down here. Come on, why is it fighting? All right, I'm just going to double click on this color. In Illustrator, you can just double click on that. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do that here, but regardless, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the blues, and I'm going to choose kind of a lightish blue, somewhere around here. If you want the exact number I chose, it's right there. But I'm just looking for a blue, and you can kind of see what's happening on his face already. It's kind of a cool effect. I'll click OK, and I'll click OK again. Now what I need to do is I actually want to hide part of this, but it's a little harsh. So to start, I'm going to come here and I'm going to change the blending mode to hard light. Now it's a little more stylized, and I'm going to drop the opacity of that gradient map just a little bit. I don't know, like 88, 90, somewhere around there. Okay, cool. So we can kind of see that's applying this very stylized kind of effect across his face. But I want to make this side of his face red. So what I'm going to do is on this gradient map, I need to make sure that I don't have the adjustment selected, but I have the mask. I'm going to take this mask and I'm going to grab my paintbrush. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make my brush, I'll probably go a little bit bigger. Actually, I'm going to show you another keyboard shortcut. So you've got your square bracket keys. Those are on the keyboard next to the letter P. You've got your left bracket that makes your brush smaller. You've got your right bracket that makes your brush bigger. Something like this. I'm going to go pretty good size where it's kind of, yeah, about that big. I don't know what size that one is, 400. All right, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit of this away. So I kind of get rid of some of the cheek and along his head, and then along this back area right there. So you can see on this mask where I've painted black. What I'm going to do to save some time is I'm going to duplicate this because I want to actually put red on this side. So I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to drag it to the plus sign. That lets me duplicate. And then what I want to do is I want to reverse this mask. Now there's two ways to do this. When you click on the mask, your properties will pop up and there's the invert button. Or you can press Command I for invert and it'll flip it. And then what I can do is right now it's still showing up blue because I haven't changed the color yet. So on this second gradient map adjustment layer that I made, I'm going to click on the actual adjustment so that the properties show me what my adjustment was. Now I'm going to click on the ramp. I'm going to come to this piece where it was blue, and I'm going to click on the blue, but then this time I'm going to bring this up to a more vibrant red. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm noticing I kind of would like to have a little bit more color kind of showing up in this area. So if I take my brush and I switch to the map, so I'm constantly going back and forth between the adjustment and the mask. So keep an eye on that as you're doing it. All I'm doing is just painting a little bit of white. If I go too far, see, it's going to start bringing up the original black and white. So I'm going to switch. Notice I didn't come over here to switch. I'm using a keyboard shortcut again. It's the letter X. X will crisscross or flip-flop those. So if you start to paint and you're not liking the look of it, you can hit X and kind of bring it back. But I'm going to just do that. That looks pretty cool. And then from here, I think we're pretty much done. I actually kind of think I almost want to have a little bit more on his face. But for now, I think that's going to probably be okay for me to be able to apply that kind of dual lit effect. So we've got a lot more blue coming from this side, a little bit more red kind of coming from behind. And that gives you the basic idea of how to do that. So again, let me explain what we did. We took and created a black and white layer. By putting this black and white layer on there, it allowed us to map or add new colors onto that. So instead of it being black and white, it was blue and black. So it kept the dark areas black, but it added blue and different tints of blue to those areas. And then we just duplicated it and flipped it. The reason we created this group was so that anything that was applied into this group would only have the effect, would stop at the edge of his face. And that was the main point for that. So go ahead and save this one and move on to the next.